Hello, sir. Good
Hey,
afternoon.
good evening, sir. Good evening.
How are you?
Fine, fine. And we are on the other side in the meeting. That
Oh,
we
okay.
have same thing.
Acha.
And I'm trying whether my system will have a Zoom attachment or not. Zoom login. Very good.
Okay. Yeah, it is working fine, sir.
Yes, yes. Good.
How are you otherwise?
Excellent. Going on, boss. Uh,
Good, sir.
yeah,
Good.
acha. Why the camera is blocked?
Camera, sir.
Mine is it is start
My,
video.
my camera, you are saying?
Mine is video.
My video, you're not able to see me?
I could hear you because my that camera is not on. Is on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, your camera is not on. My camera is on. I can see
Yours is
Ritesh.
on. Mine is just to
Uh,
start.
I can see Ritesh.
Yes, yes, yes.
Evening, sir.
Good evening, Ritesh. So I'll just start the recording also.
Still 4 minutes to go, sir.
4 minutes to go, no? Yeah.
Shall we log out? Yes, sir. I think we should go to the Zoom, sir. Let's go to the Zoom. Yeah. We log out. Huh? Yes, sir. Yes. Uh,
So this is your contact person, so the resource person is your contact, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. Now you are visible, sir. Sir, I will just mute all, right? I'll just mute all. So you can unmute yourself whenever you like, but let the speaker speak and later we can see.
Sanjay sir.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah. Sir, you have already posted on the WhatsApp group of our internal department.
Yes, yes, I have.
Yeah. I also reminded.
So on YouTube, some 45 people are watching already. Good evening, Shaljan, sir.
Yes, madam. Yes. Good evening, Sanjay.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, yeah. Everything is set, no?
Yeah, everything is set, sir. I have started it live on YouTube and I've started recording also. Just waiting for Sanjeev.
Okay, okay,
He should be joining any time now.
okay, okay.
Good evening, all. Good evening, faculty members, professors.
কৌস্তভ ছেড়ে দাও তাই ঠিক আছে কোনো অসুবিধা নেই চলো নো প্রবলেম
Oh, oh, Sanjeev is waiting on the Google Meet. So he didn't click on the Zoom.
Hello, good afternoon, Sanjay sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Good evening.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Yeah, Sanjay, you have sent both Google Meet and
Google Meet, I've sent the invite, sir.
okay, okay.
So we'll have to join with Google Meet, Sanjay?
No, sir.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's here only.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
two triangles that made a square. Again, we're going to do. क्यों कर दे सारे को?
बेटा आप अलग अलग कर देना.
Can you please mute yourself? Good evening, Sanjeev. Good evening, Sanjeev. How are you? Please unmute yourself, Sanjeev. You are muted.
I'm really sorry. I got into Google Meet. Then I realized that Zoom is not installed on my machine
Oh,
because we
sorry.
use Microsoft Teams. So
Okay. Sorry for the confusion, Sanjeev. Anyways, welcome to the meeting. So we have faculty members here on Zoom and we have students on YouTube. So some 1,200 students are watching. So we'll start the session, Sanjeev. Welcome to the session. Before that, just some instructions to the students. You can watch it on YouTube. I have shared the link. I see you are watching them. If you have any questions while the presentation is going on, please put your questions as comments and Sanjeev will try to answer some questions because he doesn't have a lot of time. Otherwise, I will answer those questions in the later sessions that we have planned. Okay, so don't worry about that. So without much ado, let me introduce Sanjeev to all of us. So Mr. Sanjeev is with Accenture right now. He's a managing director with Accenture. He has expertise in corporate strategy and technology strategy consulting for clients across the globe. He has incubated and run global consulting delivery practices in blockchain, technology consulting, platform advisory, technology strategy advisory, digital strategy, IT strategy, enterprise architecture and application strategy, information and data strategy. So all the terms, the latest terms that you can think of, he has worked on that. He has sold innovations and consulting solutions around blockchain, IT strategy, enterprise architecture, digital business enterprise solutions, ERP and CRM, cloud strategy, software industrialization, and the list goes on. And he has a lot of consulting experience and innovation management experience as well. And he has worked across the top global brands. He has worked with Oracle Consulting. He has worked with Cambridge Technology Partners. That's where he started his career with. So it was one of the topmost consulting companies. And for the last 15 years or so, he has been with Accenture. So he's a career Accenture man. So welcome, Sanjeev, for agreeing to present this topic on blockchain. Over to you. You can share your screen and start presenting.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Sanjay, for the opportunity. And thanks all the faculty members. Good to meet all of you here virtually. I hope I'll be able to add some value to your learning journey. So I'll bring in more of a industry perspective. I'll try to ensure that I'll not really address the topics like what is blockchain and all, which I think you folks will do much better job than me on that front. So let me give you, I'm not very used to using Zoom, so I'm trying to share. So let me know if you're able to see.
Yes, it is visible. Yep.
Okay, fine. So I put it on a full screen. Are you able to see properly?
Yes, Sanjeev.
Okay.
We are able to see the full screen. Yes.
Sure. Great. So what I'm going to do is, I think blockchain has been on the hype cycle for all the right and wrong reason over last couple of years. I think today, if you see the way in which people talk about blockchain is, I think there was a time when everyone felt that blockchain can solve every problem out there, from solving the world hunger to give a provenance of a parts which go to into an aircraft. Okay, that's the kind of a breadth of use cases people were looking at blockchain for. I think today where we are from an industry perspective, I think there is a little bit more, I would say, we have become a little bit more pragmatic, and there are a lot of skeletons on the road right now to understand that, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Okay, I think that is a great learning industry had from blockchain as a technology. Because blockchain, on one side is a concept, another side, then from the concept it goes to a pattern, and from pattern it comes to a technology implementation of that particular pattern. Okay, so that is how blockchain has been, and that is how blockchain has evolved over last many years. Now, if you see, like all of you know that from a business value creation, there's some really big projections we have for blockchain. Okay, and this is a very interesting curve which Gartner puts together, where we are showing that there's going to be a lot of growth, and then the growth will taper and kind of thing. If you see, some of the promise of blockchain has not been yet achieved. Okay, there are various reasons for that. I think one side is definitely the technology evolution. On the other side is the whole business model evolution, and the third thing is also some of the macroeconomic changes which has happened, which are like outlier event like COVID and all, which hasn't helped a lot. Okay, so these are the different factors on which, if you see, some of the promises of blockchain still hasn't realized. Like financial services sector was the first sector which actually was very, I would say, looked at the promise of blockchain much more closely, and they felt that, okay, this is something which will actually be one of the major technology for financial services sector. Okay, and then that's when the other industries started to look, like supply chain was other industry, when identity was another industry, they started to look into it. So there has been pockets of success in some industry, pockets of I would say moderate success, and some of the industries have got very disillusioned about blockchain. Okay, so this is what it has been, but blockchain is there, and there's a lot of interest among governments, a lot of interest among a lot of consortiums and all. So it continues to be there, but some of these things which you see on this value forecast hasn't materialized yet. But I think now, if you see where are we? I think so. If you see, I've started to paint a picture from all the way from let's say 2016 to up to 2021 and beyond. If you see today, 2020, we are where we see couple of implementations which so first of all, I think you need to understand that how exactly blockchain gets implemented with enterprises. How do they adopt blockchain? So I think it's a very iterative approach. This is a technology which goes through an extremely iterative approach because the implementation model is a little bit more complicated than some of the other technologies. So we do something called as POX, okay, proof of concept, proof of technology, and proof of value. That's what the POX stands for. So if you see early 2016 to almost 2018 onwards, that a lot of this proof of technology and proof of concepts happened. Okay, I think that's what people were exploring. Does the technology work? I think there are a lot of things about security, things about people had questions about the speed of the transaction and the throughput and all those things. And people spend a lot of effort and time on proof of concept, and proof of technology. Then actually the question people started to ask is like, okay, what is the proof of value? If I use this, okay, this technology works, this concept works, but what exactly is the value? okay, what is the value I'm getting? Can't I do it using some other technology? Do I really need to use blockchain, or can I do with distributed databases? Can you do it with other databases which are coming, or can I do it with more centralized pattern? Why do I really need a decentralized pattern? So those were the questions people started to ask. So that's where the whole proof of value thing which actually came up. And that's where, if you see, clients has been spending, enterprises have been spending a lot of this effort in last 2 years or on actually finding that proof of value. Okay, why should I use blockchain? Is it adding the right value? So I think that's where a lot of energy has gone in. At the same time, a lot of blockchain startups have been, I would say, pivoting their roadmaps. Okay, so that is one thing. So the whole from public blockchain, a lot of private blockchains came. Then a lot of these blockchain startups started to. When I say blockchain startup, these are the blockchain startups which are the platform players. People like R3 Coda or Hyperledger Consortium, which actually has some very, I would say, very popular blockchain platforms out there. So they actually started to look into that. Okay, what are the features I need in this platform? What are the use cases what I can solve? And they started to take different strategies, okay, based on all this initial proof of concept, proof of technology, and proof of value, which people had to started to see. Okay, now, and some of the early adopters of the industry, in the industry, they actually moved from this initial phase into what we call as pre-production. That's where, like, because all these technology, this is a very collaborative technology. This is a technology which is a multi-party system. It's not a single party system. It's a multi-party system where you bring it's not an intra-enterprise technology. It's more inter-enterprise technology. So that means that you need to build an ecosystem, and you have to work with the ecosystem. So some of the early adopters started to build this ecosystem. They actually got this, what we call as minimum viable ecosystem. They started to build this minimum viable ecosystems. And this minimum viable ecosystem, you need at least 3 other partners to be part of that ecosystem. That started to build. And once they all started to build that minimum viable ecosystem, and some of them had success, some of them did not have success. And the ones which actually have success, they actually move. So this whole minimum viable, so they started to do something called pre-production. So when you create a value case for a blockchain kind of an implementation, so we create a minimum viable ecosystem, where you may have just 3 partners, but actually the value case actually works when you may have like 10 to 12 partners on the thing. So the minimum viable ecosystem, nothing but the pre-production kind of the thing. Then you move to production, and then you start to scale up. Okay, so first you have more controlled go live, then you have the proper go live, then you scale up. Like you start with 3 partners, then you add another 12 partners so that your value case becomes real. So that is what is the scaling part. So if you see today, you will see some of implementation which are onto the scale journey. Some of them are production with 3 to 4 partners. Some of them are actually moving from a more concept or a pilot stage. They're moving into pre-production side of thing. Okay, so that's where today the industry is there. So there are various ways to look at it from a maturity and adoption perspective. This is just one view of looking at it. So Sanjay, I'll just take a pause. If there are any questions you want me to take it now, or you want to take later, let me know.
Sanjeev, I think you can continue. We'll take the questions towards the end, Sanjeev.
Okay, fine. So that's fine. So that is one thing which is there. Now, if we see from a blockchain state of play flavor, this is what I was actually sort of explaining it to you. So if you see today, we have almost like blockchain platforms are evolving from version 1 to 2 to 3 kind of a different versions what we have today. Okay, now other thing which is actually becoming very important is like you will not have one single blockchain platforms. You will have multiple platforms. How do these platforms interact with each other? Okay, so Sanjay, just give me a minute. I'm getting an urgent call. Okay, just give me a minute.
Sure, no issues. Samadip, you are marking something on the screen.
Sorry about that. I think so. There, I've got a little client.
No issues, no issues.
Yeah. So if you see, just a minute. So interoperability is something which is there, because if you see, there can be one blockchain platform which may be solving a very specific use case of payments, and there may be another blockchain platform which may be looking into from a supply chain perspective. Let's say track and trace. So when you have a supply chain track and trace, then you need to do a payment. Then the same blockchain network cannot actually do that. So then you need to have interoperability. So how can that your actual information can pass from one blockchain platform to other blockchain platform, so that actually you can actually fulfill your entire workflow or your business process. So that is another thing which is very, very important, which is coming up. Okay, so now other thing which is also like, we have moving away from show me how it works. That's what saying, the whole proof of concept, proof of technology, to actually how does it work in my context. Because a lot of these use case today, all of you must have heard, is like, it works very well in supply chain, it does this thing and does thing, all those things are there. But there's a very, very generic use cases. Now the whole requirement is that how do I move away from generic use cases to use cases which actually makes a lot of sense for a particular industry and for an enterprise. I think that is where we are moving towards today, and that is where a lot of blockchain startups are actually working on. And also you have to understand that blockchain as a technology is a very startup and open source driven. Okay, it's a very open source driven and startup driven kind of a thing. It is not so now what you're seeing is some of the
Sanjeev, one sec. Can you make it full screen?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So what you will be seeing right now is that a lot of large enterprises have started to adopt this blockchain technology. If you see, Microsoft Azure gives you Azure blockchain services, AWS gives you blockchain services, Oracle gives you blockchain services. So that's what is happening. Like, you have blockchain startups, platform startups, then there are these large software vendors who have started to adopt it and provide it as a standard services out of their cloud services. So that's what is happening. So that is actually giving a lot of confidence to many enterprises to adopt this technology right now. Okay. And other area is that definitely the whole identity space. I think identity space is a big area where blockchain plays a very, very important role. Security is another thing. Security is an area where people really look at a blockchain, but there are also concerns about security in blockchain, especially from data privacy perspective and all, especially things like what we call it as personally identify information, because once you store on blockchain, it becomes permanent. How do you actually make sure that it is not available to everyone, and how can I have control over that thing? So those are some of the things which are there. And the most important thing why the adoption is actually takes time is it's a team sport. It's an ecosystem play. It is not an enterprise will go ahead and implement a blockchain and it just works. It's not that. It's a very, very, I would say, ecosystem play. So the value doesn't come with when you implement a blockchain for yourself. You need to implement the blockchain for the ecosystem. You need to have your partners. So you have to have your suppliers, you have to have logistics players, you need to have your customers. So that is like, so that is extremely important thing for to understand that it's not only the technology, it is also the whole consortium. So that's why you need to build a consortium when it comes to blockchain adoption in an industry. So consortiums are extremely important. So if you do not have a solid consortium, then the blockchain adoption will not go anywhere. Okay, so these are some of the things which I would say are either actually makes it difficult for blockchain to uh, get implemented, or this is something where actually there is a value multiplier effect which comes because of this. It's the same, it goes either way. Okay. Now if you see, there are three broad areas where there is a lot of, I would say, action happening and a lot of funding flowing in, a lot of energy which is being spent. There are startups, there are consortium which is getting formed. So these are three broad areas. One is the whole financial services infrastructure area. The second thing is identity, and the third thing is the whole supply chain. Okay, so these are three broad areas, and I'm sure that all of you would have heard about these use cases which are coming up and how industries, like if you see financial services, because the whole blockchain technology, pretty much the first successful implementation of blockchain technology was Bitcoin. So I think the payments of one space where actually it's pretty much originated, and that's where we saw the first implementation, which was the Bitcoin, and then you have Ethereum and all those things. So pretty much I think the innovation started in financial services industry, and then it started to actually flow into other industry. Okay, so that's where it started. So if you see today, one of the hottest area for blockchain innovation, like one is that definitely a lot of you might have heard about the Facebook's Libra project, which sort of actually become a little cold right now, but that was one a very high project. But the one which you will see a lot of interest today is the whole thing called the central bank digital currency. It's called as the CBDC. Okay, so that's a big area which is actually coming up in a big way.
Sanjeev, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so if you see, the CBDC is one area where if you do a Google today, so there's a project called Digital Dollar which is coming up, and all. So this is like the DTTC and all are actually pushing for that. So how you can actually have a digital dollar. Similarly, Government of India is also looking at, like, can I have a CBDC? Can I have a digital rupee? Okay, that's the kind of a thing. So I think digital currency is one area which is, there's a lot of interest uh, to have digital currency which can be very global in nature, unlike the currencies which today we have, which are like fiat currencies we have. So that's an area of lot of interest. Okay, so that is around the financial services infrastructure. If you see from a financial service infrastructure perspective, on one side you have the central banks which are actually innovating in this space. The second area where the innovation today is happening is around insurance. I think insurance in other segment where there's a lot of innovation which is happening. So innovation, so that's a second area. Now if you see, and then the payments. Okay, so the payments is another area which all of you know that I think. So I think the Bitcoins, Ethereums, and there are a lot of other coins out there which are there. So this is first area. A lot of maturity is there. This particular segment has matured a lot. Okay, and it continues, and you will see a lot of successful implementation of blockchain in insurance segment and all. Okay, so that is something which is already happening. Sanjay, is my video coming through or it's not coming through?
It's not coming, Sanjeev.
Oh.
Last couple of minutes, the video is off.
Okay, I think there is some problem. So I'll continue with my video because I felt that it's not coming through. Okay, so now if you see the second area, which is like identity. So if you folks actually do a Google search on ID 2020, so this is actually an organization which this is not an organization, it's also basically a joint initiative between World Economic Forum, Accenture, and Microsoft have come together, and we built something called as that, how can we provide identity to 1.5 billion people out there, to basically 1.5 billion people out there who, and especially this was actually initially targeted at refugees. Okay, can we give a digital identity to them? So that was the whole idea. That's where it started. And then we say, can we provide a digital identity to the entire planet? Okay, that was the whole thing about it. Like, and if you actually do a Google search, you'll get a lot of information on ID 2020 and the kind of initiatives are going on. So the idea is that if I have a one single digital identity, then actually I can have all my information, my citizenship, my let's say visas, what I have, all those information in the digital identity wallet. Okay, so that is the kind of a thing what we are actually talking about when it comes to digital identity. So now, if you see from a usage perspective, where will you use this identity? It can be like, who are the ecosystem partners? Ecosystem partners of the digital identity solution can be your border organization, your governments, airports. It can be hotels, everything where these are all the partners which will actually need things. So like, there's a work which was done between Canada and Netherlands government, where like you can actually board a flight in Canada and you don't have to show your passport, your visa, anything. And it can be a seamless travel for you all the way from Canada to Netherlands. Okay, so that's the kind of a vision what I have, and this is something which is going on. So digital identity is one space where work is happening. Again, the thing is, you have to understand that finally this is all ecosystem thing. And these are like big ecosystem. These are not like small ecosystem you need to enable. Suppose you have to make a digital identity solution a reality, then you need to get a lot of ecosystem partners onto it. It can be your border security, you need to get your airports authority and your immigration, you need to get all these partners as part of your ecosystem. And that is where the real challenge is. Okay, and that's where it takes time. It's a very iterative process, and these consortiums take time to build. Okay, so then comes the third thing, which is like supply chain. So if you see supply chain, the one which is like the favorite use case for blockchain is the whole track and trace. So track and trace, provenance, whether you're looking at a provenance from a fraud perspective, spurious part perspective, or from a sustainability perspective. So I think the track and trace is another area where there is so much of work which has happened, and so a couple of them, if you see, like today IBM has a very successful consortium there around TradeLens, and then you have a consortium around coffee, consortiums are there, then you have consortiums around, like if you see today, Boeing, Airbus actually use very successfully blockchain for their supply chains, which is very controlled supply chain, but very complex and large supply chain. How can I track each and every part which goes into an airplane? Okay, there are like, because if you see a manufacturing an airplane is nothing but assembly of parts. Okay, there are millions of parts which actually go to make everything. So how can you do that? An entire bomb can be put off supply chain and you can track it and all kind of the thing. So there are the whole bunch of use cases which are built here, and the ones which are actually, some of them have gone into production, some of them are getting scaled. Like there is a one very interesting use cases for one of the large software vendors who is in cloud business today, uh, about so they have these large data centers. Okay, for this data center you need SSD RAMs, you need different kind of supplies which goes into created data centers. Now today they have lots of suppliers, and they have lot of suppliers who provide it to them, and then there are intermediaries who are there, then there are logistics providers who are there and all. So now how do you track them, how do you reduce the wastage, all those things, the provenance of different parts, where it is, the real-time track and trace. This is something what we've implemented, and they've gone into production, and they're already looking at things like having this kind of a very robust track and trace. How can they reduce the wastage? How can they actually add to reduce the carbon footprint? Because this company has that by 2035 they want to actually become carbon neutral. So how can this thing? So these are some of the outcomes when you implement a blockchain solution. Okay, so this is, so if you see today, all the innovation and all the energy are going in it, and some of the consortiums are quite mature. Some of the consortiums are actually are now scaling up, and they are into production. They are actually doing value. They're scaling up. They are so what I will do is, like, before actually I move to the next one. Okay, this is not something. Yeah, let me see if I have. Yeah, so I think there are few things which we all need to understand. Is like blockchain is just not a, it's just not a technology implementation. It's a business model implementation. Okay, so you need to have a very ecosystem business model. So not all use cases are very good fit for blockchain, because there you can use some other technology to actually achieve the same result, or maybe some or a better result using some other technology. Okay, so I think that is extremely important, and this is a nice segue for me to actually go into what are the two fundamental the use cases which are becoming real in the industry today. Okay, so the first one is called as the mutualized data, and the second is the tokenized value transfer. Okay, so basically data sharing and value transfer. So these are two different use cases. Okay, so it is not always about, like, what we always has this myth is that is blockchain is always required to disintermediate. So, but actually what we are seeing in the industry is not, blockchain is not really required to disintermediate. Okay, it's not that. It is also about how can I efficiently transfer value? How can I bring in transparency? I think those are the things which are where where the enterprise is seeing more value than disintermediation. I think that is where blockchain became famous, is that I'm going to get rid of middleman, I'm going to disintermediate that, and all is going to happen. But I think in reality, the way in which it is actually getting today adopted in the industry is from a very different perspective. So, okay, so these are the two fundamental use cases where you will see. One is like, how can I share data among all the parties involved in a transaction, or all the parties which are involved in a consortium. Okay, so basically, how can you ascertain what is a single source of truth? Okay, a single source of truth which cannot be tampered. Okay, I think that is that. If you tamper, then everyone will come to know that tampered and who has tampered it. Okay, so that's something. I think that's a use case. So how can I do mutualized data sharing? And this pattern actually is very good. Like, blockchain as a pattern is extremely powerful when you want to do mutualized data sharing among all the partners involved in an ecosystem who are actually in a part of a transaction. The second thing is tokenized value transfer. So when I say tokenized value transfer, is like, how can I efficiently transfer value from anyone? It need not be just a bank. Here we are showing it a bank. Like, and today value can be anything. It need not be just a fiat currency. It can be, let's say, your real estate a title. That can be a value. The value, anything which you can tokenize, then you can convert that into a digital token. Then you can transfer that value. Okay, and the beauty of a tokenized value transfer is like you can actually have, you don't have to transfer the whole thing. You can do partial transfer. Like if you have a gold, you don't have to, like if you have a bar of gold. So if you really physically want to take a part of that gold and give it to something, then you have to melt, you have to do all those things. Like in case of let's say blockchain, if you have a bar of gold, if I can convert into a digital token, then it becomes very easy for me to actually transfer a part of that gold bar to someone. Okay, so that what it does, it like it actually helps you to create liquidity in the system. Okay, so that's the beauty of you when you convert something into a digital token, and then you are able to actually transact on that digital token. That gives you much higher liquidity, more transparency, and partial ownership. Okay, so that's that. So that is, so these are two fundamental use cases which are very, very powerful and very popular today in the industry. Okay, so so today, if you see, the value which most of the enterprises are seeing is in the trust. Okay, how do you build that trust among different things? Today, if you see, do you think when if I have a supplier, I have a buyer and all, they transact each other. So definitely they have trust. It's not the question of trust. If I'm really doing business with something, there has to be trust, otherwise you will not do business with them. So the trust is not about trusting two parties. It is a trust in the data. Okay, I think that is blockchain enables, is it creates trust in the data which is held and shared between parties. And so there's a pattern called as I see is what you see. I think that's a huge thing that actually reduces a lot of reconciliation effort. Today, if you see in financial services or any industry, the amount of effort, energy, and error which happens in reconciliation is humongous. I think a pattern like blockchain actually helps you to reduce that. So any industry where you have a challenge with data trust and with implementing blockchain, I see what you see actually reduces huge amount of effort which goes into data reconciliation. Okay, so that is what we do. Any industry, you say that the maximum amount of time what we spend is like in reconciliation. Okay, so that's a very important thing where most of our clients are actually seeing value. Okay, so Sanjay, what I'll do is that I think I'll just stop it here. Maybe I'll take a couple of questions and maybe then I'll come back to a couple of more use cases.
Okay, so Sanjeev, the first question is, suppose an MBA student wants to make a career in blockchain, what he or she is supposed to do?
Okay, so I think that's an extremely good question. So if you see a couple of roles today which are emerging, okay, are you need a value architect. Okay, so a value architect will actually look into that. Okay, what is the value I will get when I implement this particular use case? Okay, first of all, it's like all the way from, is this the right use case for blockchain? Okay, and if it's the right use case for blockchain, then what kind of a value case I can build? Because blockchain implementation are expensive and it takes time to get the maximum value of out of the business case what we have created. Okay, so that's a very important role. Okay, and then there is a whole bunch of roles which are there to help a client, to an enterprise, to actually create consortium. Okay, today if you see, if I want to implement a supply chain a supply chain platform on blockchain, first you have to create a consortium. That consortiums can have a buyer, a seller, okay, your suppliers, your logistics providers, and there are a lot of intermediaries, your warehouse companies which are there, and all those things, freight and forwarding players, all of them. So these are all the different players which will be part of your supply chain. Now, how do you create a consortium? Okay, first of all, do they need a create consortium, or they can be part of already existing consortium where they already blockchain? So these are some of the things which is all about doing that early analysis of doing the market scan, understanding the use cases, fitment of the use case, what is the blockchain platform you have to use, and what is the kind of a consortium either you need to build, you need to be part of that. This whole thing is about business design. Okay, it's about business design, the business model, the operating model, the talent model, what we call as a capability model. This whole thing is about a lot to do with what you learn at B school. Okay, and so that whole area is a great fit for some of the educational intervention you would be going in 1 or 2 years in a B school. Okay, that helps you. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, and then there's a lot of area of like project management, program management, because these are complex programs. Okay, and there are a lot of different technologies which actually come. So there's a whole lot of program management skills are required. So that is definitely one area where you can build and these are complex programs. These are large programs. These are sometimes these are multi-geography, multi-client kind of programs are there, very complex there. That's one thing. And then the other important thing is the whole area of change management. This is big change. This is a business change. You have to deal with business change. You change it to technology change. Okay, and that change is never easy. Okay, and in that there is a whole thing about the change. And finally, these blockchains need to be operated. These consortiums need to be operated. So there is a lot of business skills which are required to actually operate a consortium. Okay, how do you onboard? How do you offboard a particular partner onto a blockchain network? All these things are there. So this is all area of intervention where you will need the skills what you actually learn in B school.
Okay, the next question, Sanjeev, is how much of programming skills are required for blockchain profiles?
Again, see, if you see, there are different skills. So some of the roles which I was telling you, they were like more business skills, and it works at the intersection of business and technology. There you don't need any programming skills. So then comes your architecture skills. So there's a business architecture roles are there, technical architecture, and then you need a lot of security. So security architecture. So there's a bunch of architecture kind of skills which is required. And then comes your platforms. You need to understand a platform. How do you spin off a platform? How do you create an environment? All those things are there. And then comes actually business. Then you need the coding skill like smart contracts. How do you write smart contract? How do you write integration code and all? That is where actually coding comes. Okay, and today if you see, if to write a smart contracts and all, you use a lot of high-level language skills and all, which are coding wise is much more easier. And that's where the blockchain platforms are moving towards. They're moving towards more low code, no code kind of a thing. So where like the idea is that a business analyst should be, or a business user should be able to write a smart contract. But the whole concept of smart contract was that anybody should be able to write. Like if I'm doing a blockchain for a law use case, legal use case, then maybe a lawyer should be able to write a smart contract. So that's the vision, but are we there or not? It will take some time, but coding skills are required, but there are different roles. Not all the roles will require coding skills.
Right, Sanjeev. So one more question from Professor Surjit. He's asking, can you please give a short demo of any specific use case, that is how blockchain works? Is that possible?
I haven't planned for any demo, but let me see. I don't know how the video works on Zoom. I'll try to see.
So if you share your screen, I think it will work.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did not plan for it. Otherwise, I would have kept it ready. Let me see if it works. Just give me 1 minute. I'm trying to see that I've got to download video. It's just signing in. Just give me a minute.
Sure, sure.
Are you able to?
The video is not
Human rights.
visible, but we can hear the sound.
Oh, okay. See, that is what I.
So you go to the share screen, Sanjeev,
Huh?
and in share screen you select that particular window, then it will come.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So you stop sharing, and then while sharing you go to that particular window or tab, then it should come.
Got it.
Yeah.
Let me try it.
Yes, it has come.
Okay, great.
Right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. However, 1.2 billion people in the world live without documented proof of their existence. That means they're excluded from modern society and the everyday activities that we take for granted. ID 2020 believes that the future can be different. This public-private partnership is dedicated to solving the challenges related to identity in today's world. To do this, we need to understand what truly defines our identity and how we prove it. We need to appreciate the human at the heart of the challenge. Using innovative technology, we can discover how that identity can be established, trusted, and strengthened over time.
I am Sarah. I am a mother.
I am a doctor. I am a soccer fan.
I am Fabiola. I am a student.
I am a princess.
I am Zhao. I am a scientist.
I am a teacher.
I am...
Can you show me some identification?
No, my house was completely destroyed. I just ran.
You will need some ID to cross the border.
I got nothing on me. What can I do? I'm a father. I'm trying to find my family. Please, I'm scared.
Hi, how can I help you?
My child needs to be vaccinated.
Okay, can I get your name?
I am Nia.
And your date of birth?
I don't know my date of birth. I don't have a birth certificate.
Don't you have any form of ID? I'm sorry, Nia, we need something that proves who you are and where you were born.
Can you please help me? I'm here on holidays, but I've lost my passport and my flight leaves tomorrow.
That will take some time to process.
But I need to get back. Family emergency. What can I do?
Can I get your name?
Can you show me some identification?
Don't tell me any form of
What if your identity is always in your hands? An identity you can trust, that others can trust? What if this digital identity was always at your fingertips and people could verify your identity in a few simple steps? What if you were in control of your data and how it's shared with others? What if this personal, portable identity helped you to learn, work, and live? What if showing who you are was as easy as saying, I am?
I am Gilson.
Across the globe, the pieces are coming together to make this happen. Accenture, Microsoft, and Avanade have teamed up to create the prototype you've seen in action. It's a first step towards a digital identity solution for all. To achieve this, we need motivated, passionate people and organizations to join us. So we invite you to come together, collaborate, and realize the vision of ID 2020.
Right, Sanjeev. So after watching this video, another question came to my head.
Yep.
How does GDPR affect this? Because ID, I think this is all personal data, right? So how does GDPR affect the implementation of this?
Yeah. So if you see from a GDR GDPR perspective,
Mhm, mhm.
is challenge is that you have a thing called as right to forget.
Correct.
Okay, so right to forget is something what is a challenge today. Okay,
Mhm.
because once you put something in a blockchain, it becomes permanent. Okay, so
Correct.
today, so today actually there's a work going on. First of all, actually we will not put PII information onto blockchain. We'll keep it outside of that.
Okay.
You will get the information, and even if you keep something on blockchain, it will be we will not, it will be just kind of an identifier for the data. You will not keep the actual data on blockchain, you'll keep it outside.
Mhm,
So it's a very good question, because today that is the reason, when if you want to have any PI data on blockchain, then you need special strategy. Okay,
Correct.
that's when you say that what are some of the folks who are doing MBA
Hmm.
can do is like, yeah, these are the areas which you will have to look at as an architect. You have to
Okay.
look at like, okay, if you need a solid data architect for this, okay, who will define what is the data strategy for a blockchain solution. Okay, that's where you'll have to look into this thing, that okay, where is data residing, because these are all cloud first solutions. Okay, any
Okay.
blockchain solutions are cloud first solutions. So there are a lot of GDPR requirement or Patriot Act requirement or IT Act of India requirement, which says that where data can lie, who can access the data, all those things you will have to actually look into it. Okay, because blockchain actually deals with lots of data. Okay, and inherently there are some limitation, inherently there are some advantages. So you as a data architect, you actually have to take these decisions.
Okay.
There are ways to do it, and today if you see some of the new features which the blockchain platforms are providing you, is actually helping to alleviate, to actually meet some of these data regulations and all.
Okay. So Sanjeev, one more question, right? So Professor Rishi is asking this question. So we have all our data on Aadhaar, right?
Yeah.
So we have a fingerprint, we have our iris scan. So is that this data can be ported onto a blockchain technology and it becomes a blockchain implementation? Is it
Yeah.
like that?
No, no. What do you say? You have your iris scan and all. No, so see, today if you see, this will actually help you to ascertain your identity. Okay. So like your iris scan or your fingerprint, this all kind of a thing, it ascertains you. Okay. Now the thing is, so there are different algorithms today. What we have, like zero proof algorithms, you have where actually I really need to know that. See, the idea is that there are things like homomorphic encryption, zero proof, zero knowledge proof algorithms are there, which blockchain implements. Okay, those are the things which implements for you, which will actually help you. Like today, the things like if let's say a traffic cop actually stops you, what does he want to know is that whether you are allowed to drive or not. That is all he needs to know. So today, how does he ascertain? Is you give your license card to him. Okay, that license card actually helps you to ascertain that we are allowed to drive or not. Okay, that is what. But today, what happens when you give a license card? It gives you a lot of other information, your address, your name, your father's name. Do you think that is the information the traffic cop needs? No.
No, he doesn't need.
He doesn't need. So what a digital identity does compared to a physical identity is it actually just help you to, if a cop tries to find out, okay, you have a digital identity. So if Sanjay is the digital identity, okay, you just say Sanjay Floria, and if the cop, you just give Sanjay Floria to cop, he can easily find using your digital identity whether you are allowed to drive or not. So what he'll get is yes or no. That's it. It's a binary.
Okay.
It doesn't need to know anything else. So for doing that kind of a digital identity, you may use iris scan, you may use other kind of a thing. I think the professor, your question was, it will
Correct.
use, but the why it is used is all about digital, giving you a digital identity. That's all it is.
Okay, okay. So Sanjeev, can you just finish the couple of use cases that you were talking about, and then we will wrap it up?
Yeah, today, if you see the use cases which are very popular are basically the supply chain use cases. Okay, the supply chain use cases are the ones which are actually going into production, and they are the one which is actually are scaling up right now. Okay, and other area which is
So Sanjeev, can you give an example of this track and trace? That would be beneficial.
yeah, sure. So I don't have time. Otherwise, I've shown you a similar kind of a demo for a track and trace solution, what we created for World Economic Forum. Okay, and
Okay.
and in the World Economic Forum, we actually presented. So we partnered with Amazon, Accenture, and a couple of coffee makers out there. So idea was like today, if you see. Uh, Coffee makers are farmers who are very marginal farmers. Okay, they are the people, like whether the farmers in Colombia or the farmers in Kurg, these are coffee growers. Actually, many times what happens is the actual value of the a coffee, like if the coffee is sold in, let's say, a Starbucks for $5, the actual cost of or actual money which goes to a final farmer maybe like 30 cents. Okay, so that's the kind of discrepancy.
Sanjeev, can you stop sharing, please, so that I can see you? Yes, please go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So, okay, now where's the video? Okay. Yeah. So what happens is that when you, if really I want to give the real value of a coffee to the last mile farmer out there, then you need to do the entire track and trace. That if I'm having a cup of coffee, which I have right now, where exactly this particular coffee bean has come from. Okay, so that's called as track and trace. So I need to find out. And then the second thing what I need to do is that then I have to ascertain the digital identity of that particular farmer who may be in Kurg, in Karnataka. Okay, that is the second thing I have to do. So I need to find out the whole track and trace of this cup of coffee is coming from which pack of coffee powder and which are the beans which was used, and you have to do all the track down to the farmer who's done it. And then you have to have a digital identity so that you can do the payment directly. So the idea what we did for in World Economic Forum was that it's called as, the use case was called as tip the farmer. Okay, you as an end user, can you tip a farmer who produced the coffee beans which went into your cup of coffee? So you need to do an entire provenance of the origination of that coffee bean coming for a which farm, produced by which farmer, and that gives you, then that empowers you as an end consumer to tip that particular farmer. Okay, and so that is one use case which we build, and for that you need a technology like blockchain. You need a digital identity blockchain. So we work with MasterCard for that. So MasterCard was actually our payment provider, because you need to have the last mile payment provider. So we got MasterCard, we had Amazon, who was our infrastructure, cloud infrastructure and technology provider, and Accenture. We built this whole thing, and the whole use case was called as Tip the Farmer. So this is a brilliant usage of digital payments, digital identity, good for the society, responsible business, and finally the whole provenance and track and trace. So you can use the same thing for others. Like if you're buying an organic coffee, is it really coming from an organic source, or it is really? So then it goes on to multiple scenarios what you can run it. Like you can also find out like is your farm is in a country which is water scarcity? Is there a water scarcity? Are you really procuring? So sustainability is a big outcome and a driver for some of the supply chain use cases today.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Sanjeev. So any one example from the finance domain?
Yeah, so the payments are there. As I was saying, the payments are the big use case, and I think we all understand today. Then whole financial reconciliation, because when you implement IC is what you see, like if you see the same information, I see the same information, the whole reconciliation effort is not required. So that is where the financial reconciliation effort goes on, and that you can implement in any industry, wherever the financial reconciliation is required. Insurance claims, I think that is like first notice of loss, the claim, how do you find a fraudulent claim? So insurance is another big industry which uses today blockchain, and you will see a lot of successful implementation of blockchain in insurance segment today. And banks, central banks, so interbank reconciliation, that is another area. KYC is another area where banks are looking into, because can I do KYC once and everyone can use it? So these are some of the things which are there. So there are lots of use cases in financial services industry today, which are there, whether it is from a bank's perspective or it is from, so I just saw a question that HR is another big area. Employee onboarding, Envoy, KYC, all those things are where actually you use blockchain. But again, the thing is, the challenge is like, how do you build the ecosystem? So if you want to do a KYC today, or let's say know your employee kind of the thing you want to do, then you really need to get a lot of other partners onto the thing. You need to get universities, because today if you do a background check, you need to find out that he has got the right degree, and all you have to get the university onto thing. So, and then there are alternate solutions. Today, if you see the digital locker solution from Government of India, is a solution like that. Today, if you see, you can actually put all your important documents into digital locker, and anybody can go, and it actually gives you that thing. So I think there are alternate solutions, there are blockchain based solutions, all those things. So HR is
digital locker. What is the technology behind that, Sanjeev?
I think they use I don't know exactly what technology, but they don't use blockchain. It's
don't use blockchain.
Centralized technology.
And I think one more application is land registration, right?
Land registration. Land registration, already a couple of governments are doing it. Andhra government, they are all actually doing it. So, and you will see, so they are quite mature. I think a couple of state governments in India are doing land registry already on.
Okay. So professors, if you have any more questions, maybe he can take a couple of questions, then we'll let him go, because as you would have seen, he's pretty busy. He has calls all around the day. Any more questions, please feel free to ask.
Sir, I have a question. So with the new use cases coming up, we also have new dilemmas of ethics in play. For example, when we talk about ID 2020, it's great that we have a universal ID, but then that can also be misused for profiling, discriminatory, segregation, or for refugees or immigrants. And all use cases that we come up with would always have some kind of possibility of unethical usage. So where does legal and ethics compliance take care of that?
I think it's nothing to do with technology. I think those are the issues. It doesn't matter whether you use blockchain or you can use anything. So you can have those kind of challenges, a centralized pattern or a decentralized pattern or a simple database. See, those are the controls which you have to build. Those are the policies which you have to build. Those are, I would say, is constraints you will have to build into the model. Okay. And more and more data. So like today, if you see Aadhaar, all the things what we have been discussing, it is not on blockchain technology, but all the things what you are saying today are relevant for even our Aadhaar solution. Okay, so I think those are something irrespective of blockchain you will have to do. Okay, you need to have the right controls, you need to have the right policies, to governance structure needs to be there, and basically the data privacy, data regulation, and the data lineage, data veracity, all those things you'll have to take care of it, whether it's a blockchain or non-blockchain solution.
One last question. Okay, Dr. Shaljan, our dean, has asked a question. Sanjeev, I promise you this is the last question. Can you share some examples of blockchain applications in healthcare sector?
Yeah, so from a healthcare section, I think patient record is one area where, and also from an insurance perspective, healthcare insurance, I think is another area where there's a lot of innovation which is happening and people are using. One is definitely the healthcare records or like individual record uh, on blockchain. And the second thing is basically like your benefits administration. We call it the benefits administration, where because in countries like US and all, you have an insurance cover, and then you can actually use that insurance into multiple healthcare service providers, and that healthcare service provider finally have to reconcile with your insurance providers. That is one area where using. The other thing is like track and trace in pharma industry. Pharma track and trace is another big area of like there are a lot of companies, like if you do a Google on Nippon Express is a pharma company in Japan. So how they are actually using track and trace, pharma track and trace. Then there's a whole serialization we call as pharma serialization. There are regulations today that you need to serialize your whole data on your medicines and all. Okay, so that is required. So those, like, how can I use blockchain for pharma serialization? So there's a huge amount of innovation happening in healthcare, in pharma sector, it's happening. So there are a bunch of use cases which are quite active, and some of them are actually getting into a scale stage.
Right, Sanjeev, thank you very much for agreeing to address us on the topic of blockchain. It's a very relevant technology and very current, and look forward to more such talks from you. Thank you very much once again on the behalf of IBS.
Sure. Thanks
Bye.
a lot, Sanjay. Thanks a lot, all of you at IBS, and all the best for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.